All right, welcome to Broncos Country Tonight. Got a fun show for you this evening. We're going to start out here talking about Garett Bolles. He is the highest graded offensive tackle per Pro Football Focus. 90.0 grade, 89.2 pass blocking grade, 87.1 run blocking grade. Ben, did you ever think we were going to say that?
I don't think I ever thought we were going to say that. I certainly thought that we would see improvements out of Garett Bolles. We did see him down the stretch last year, and I think putting him in this new scheme has really helped him as well. I think that's the underrated part of what's going on here. We saw against the Miami Dolphins how the Broncos were more apt to use his athletic talents, using pin pull, having him pull all the way around, using his athletic talents to get him out in space. We saw him at the road grade a couple of defensive backs. It looked good on the tape there. But, Garett's put a lot of work in. He recognizes what the fan base thought of him, what people thought of him as a whole. Went out, hired a private coach out of his own pocket in his downtime to go over things with him throughout the day. And he really made a commitment and an effort to try to get better at his craft, and that looks to be paying off right now. I mean, highest graded by PFF's nothing to sneeze at. Now you can couch that by saying the NFL is calling fewer holding penalties this year. True, but that doesn't really affect how well he's blocking. Also. So I think overall, am I surprised? Surprised probably isn't the right word. Pleasantly surprised is probably the right phrase.
Should this change the perception, not the grade so much, but his play so far this season? Should it change the perception of Broncos fans that have had so much history? Because the thing about it is it's one thing to say a guy is on a bit of a hot streak. You mentioned it, the NFL across the board, the holding calls are down. So it's one thing for a guy to have a little bit of a hot streak, but then to kind of, I guess, maybe we're looking for reasons why to be optimistic about him and about that draft pick. Maybe we're using a little recency bias here too.
Well, I think you just look at how well he's playing. And he's playing well. Let's take the holding penalties out of the equation for a minute. Is he doing his job? Are guys getting by him? Is he getting beaten for sacks? And the answer to that is resoundingly no. The left side of that line has looked pretty good. We've had some problems at the interior. We've had some problems at the right side, but the left side of the line's looked pretty good this season. So I would suggest that if we take all those things out of the equation, just look at him in a vacuum, he's definitely improved. He's definitely playing better, and I hope that continues. I hope that's not a contract year kind of deal. I really hope that that's something that continues, and he continues to validate that number one pick that they used on him.
So when it came to Garett Bolles prior to this year, oftentimes there were pretty valid criticisms, not just the penalties, but even just sort of seeming like he had some technique questions. And I think a lot of people wondered, because of his age relatively when he became an NFL pro, if he would kind of ever get it. And it was interesting listening to his press conference this week, because he says he wants to become the best left tackle in the league. And I mean, I think that based on the trajectory he's at right now, I think he has an argument for it, that he has a chance to do that. But that's why I kind of asked you at the beginning about where he's come from, because when we were sort of breaking down Garett Bolles over the last few years, it was difficult to move past the things that were working against him. Didn't have a lot of football playing time before he went to college and became a pro eventually. Started out kind of slow here, and you wondered a little bit if he'd eventually get it. So I guess my roundabout way of coming at this is, do you think he has a chance to continue this trajectory and actually become the best left tackle in the game? Can he rise to that occasion, and what's holding him back?
Well, you already said PFF has him as the number one graded tackle in the game right now. So I would say that, yeah, I guess that's possible if we're using, I don't know what measurement or objective rating we're using for that. But I think it's possible. Improbable is probably the right thing. But upper tier, sure. I think it's great to have that goal in mind. Have number one, but don't settle for just being good. That suggests that he's got the right mindset. Garett Bolles is always a great athlete. I mean, people don't realize he was actually a star lacrosse player. He's always been a great athlete. The thing was, could he become a great football player? And he's taken it upon himself to dedicate himself to the craft and become that. And I applaud his efforts. I think that it is. I think it's possible that maybe he becomes the best left tackle in the game. I would probably phrase that as, like I said earlier, top tier. Just be in that top tier, and you would never vocalize that from his end because you don't want to settle for that. But I think that if you're the Broncos, you're certainly happy with him being a top 5 left tackle.
Okay, so does that mean his pay, because he is in a contract year, does that mean his pay is going to ultimately reflect that, or are the Broncos going to be looking at this as the whole picture on what he's been here for 4 years?
I think if you're negotiating a contract, depends on which side of the contract you're on for how you look at that.
I already knew the answer to that.
Right. I think if you're John Elway, you're saying, well, look, Garett, we love what you did this year. We absolutely did, but we got 3 or 4 years here of other tape that, we have to account for when we're paying you here. How about we offer you this deal, which is slightly less money with some escalators in here if you continue at All-Pro play, and we go from there. And that's always the way I would approach contract negotiation. Hey, I love what you're doing in this contract year, but I want to make sure that you're still doing this after I pay you. I don't want to just give you a giant bonus and then you go back to, poor habits before.
Let me throw you an example here, because I think if you're the Broncos, another part of the negotiation tactic here is not that they'd bring this up, but in the back of your head, you also can give examples of like Brock Osweiler, who was a grass is always greener. Hey, I've played pretty well here, but I think I can take that big contract and go somewhere else. Garett, we have Mike Munchak here. You're playing the best football of your life right now for that coach. Who's to say you're going to play that well somewhere else?
Well, I don't think you have to even get to that point of it. I mean, you maybe they get other offers out there, but we've seen what Garett Bolles can't do in certain other schemes with certain other coaches. And maybe it took a long time for it to connect. Maybe this is just a perfect fit for him. I don't know. But I would say that that's your selling point. You come at it with, here's the number. You've got a familiarity here. You don't want to have to go learn something all over again. We stuck with you. We knew that there was a learning issue, and we stuck with you and built you out and did our part on this end. And now you're one of the top tackles in the game. We want to give you money that's commensurate with that, but we also don't want to make sure that we build ourselves in a safety net so that there's no reversion to the mean once you get paid. And I think that that's really what that is. So I think you come in with an offer that's top, 6 or 7 left tackle money. I think you start off lower than that, then you meet there. And you say, here's what we've got. We've got some escalators built in. If you continue to be a Pro Bowl or All-Pro left tackle, you don't hit certain number of holding calls. You keep it under this number of holding calls all year. I think that if you do put those kinds of escalators in there, I think you're probably pretty set on getting a contract. I think both sides be able to get it done.
Last question on this very quickly. Bigger influence on his play right now, the addition of Dalton Risner last year or Mike Munchak's coaching?
I don't know that one's larger than the other. I think the combination of those two things, plus him being sensitive to the outside criticism from media and fans, I think that made a perfect three-legged stool for him to sit on. I think having Dalton's commitment to excellence and his attitude next to him is probably pervasive. I think that having Mike Munchak correcting technique issues as a Hall of Famer is probably pervasive. And then seeing the pressure from fans and always having that motivation behind you to get it done.
All right. The light came on for Garett Bolles. It took a little bit of time.